Okay, so we're doing distributed property, combining like terms, but we're adding fractions today. Okay, so let's go over this. I want you to copy and then answer the question. Okay. Likewise, I want you to do the visual patterns, and you can pause the video and do it yourself, or you can, well, pause the video first. So we know that this one has 4 boxes. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one has 3 over here, and so there's 3 here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 boxes. And over here you can see that the pattern is going to be by threes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 and 4 is 13. Now if you look at your numbers, you're going to take the first difference. Let's call it first difference. And by taking the first difference, you will be able to see if it's a linear equation or a quadratic, linear function or quadratic function. So in this case, the difference is 3, 3, 3. And if you continued, you'll notice a difference between each term. It would be 3. So because they're all the same, this tells me it's a linear sequence. So the linear sequence, and we can already, it's going to be something n, right? And we're missing this number here. And that number is going to be 3. So this is called a 3n sequence. A 3n sequence goes by 3s. So think of, I guess you can just substitute, the first term, you can substitute the n with 1, 2, 3. So on a 3n sequence, the first term, right, would be 3 times 1, and you would get 3. The second term would be 3 times 2, and you would get 6. The third term, you would be 3, and you multiply 3 times 3, you would get 9. And the fourth term, you would multiply 3 times 4 and you get 12. Now notice that that if this is a linear function, of course, and that that you need to make a little adjustment on the 3n sequence, because we don't really want a 3, 6, and 9, and 12. What we really want is a 4, 7, 10, and 13. So how do I adjust my linear sequence, my 3n sequence here, to actually get the 4 instead of 3, to actually get the 6 instead of 7, to actually get the 9 instead of 10, and to actually get the 12 instead of 13? What do I have to do to each of these numbers? Well, I have to add plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's a 3n sequence, but what do I have to do to each of the numbers that I get from this 3n? I have to add plus 1. So my rule is 3n plus 1, meaning that if I ask you to draw, well, this is the first picture, the second term, third term, the fourth term. If I were to ask you what is on the 20th term, how many boxes would be on the 20th term, instead of you drawing it out, you could use this rule here. You could go 3, and in this case, n is 20, right? 3 times 20, and then add plus 1. 3 times 20 is 60, and then plus 1 will give you 61. So on the 20th term, there would be 61 little boxes, and so forth. So with this rule, we can find any number of boxes for any term that we want. Okay. So previously, on the previous class, if you remember what we did the distributive property, right? So the one thing that we have to be really careful with is the sign. So the 4 is being distributed to this guy, and then distributed to this guy. So, but it's being distributed via multiplication. So let's take care of that. The first thing we're going to multiply is negative 4. So this is a negative 4 times a positive 5y. So negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. And don't forget to make sure to include the y. So second thing is a negative 4 times, and I want you to think of this as a negative 8, right? So negative 4 times negative 8 is positive 32. Can I do anything else with these two terms? Can I combine them? No, I can't. So this is my final answer. Bottom one, it's a positive times a positive. So 3 times 5 is 15a. It's a positive times a negative. So it's going to be negative, and 3 times 7 is 21. Right? Continuing,
Now it's negative 4 times a, so it's a negative times a positive, which is going to be a negative, and it's going to give me 4a. A negative times a negative, right, because this is negative. Negative times a negative is going to give me a positive, and 4 times 8 is 32. And then I'm going to add that 10 there, because that 10 is not part of the terms inside the parentheses, so it doesn't get multiplied with 4. Now, we go to what we did the other day, which is combine like terms. So it's this guy and this guy are the same. I'll write them next to each other. And then I'm going to use another color. So negative 21 plus 32 and plus 10. Negative 21 plus 32 and plus 10 are all like terms. So those three will be combined together. So let's do the ones that we can first. 15a minus 4a, that's easy. It's going to be something a, right? And 15 minus 4 is simply 11a. In blues, and again, you can have a calculator, you can use this. I'll do these two first. Negative 21 plus 32, there's more positive, so it's going to be, let me just pull that to the side here. If I do these two, negative 21 plus 32, there's more positive, so they're going to win, so it's going to give me 9. And then I have to add plus 10. So this whole thing is going to be 19. So this whole thing equals 19. What kind of 19? Positive or negative? Positive. So I'm going to put that right here. So this whole line, 15a minus 4a minus 21 plus 32 plus 10, is the same thing as 11a plus 19. So today we're going to do the same thing, but with fractions. So again, you have a calculator, and you're going to multiply these two. Well, it's going to be 1/4 times 8, right? So if you 1/4 times 8, think about that. Well, it's going to be something m, right? And 1/4 times 8, we can simplify before we multiply, or we can multiply and then simplify. So let me put the 8 over 1. 1 times 8 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4, but 8 over 4 is really 2. So 1/4 times 8 is 2. Done. Then it's a positive times a negative, so let me take care of the sign first. It's going to be negative. And 1/4 times 12, again, you can multiply. In this case, in this one, I'm going to simplify before I multiply. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So on the top, I get 1 times 3, which is 3. At the bottom, I get 1 times 1, which is 1. And 3 over 1 is just 3. So 1/4 times 12 is just 3. So this is what I'm looking for. We're going to do a few examples. Leave 3 examples or 4. So again, this is the same thing. The 3/5, negative 3/5, I'm sorry, is going to be multiplying with each of these terms inside the parentheses. So let's take care of the first one. Since a negative times this is a positive, so it's going to be positive, negative, sorry. And you're going to multiply 3/5 times 10. So you got choices. I mean, if you don't want to use a calculator, you can multiply 3 times 10 first and then divide it by 5. Or you can even divide 10 divided by 5 and then multiply by 3. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do 3 times 10, which is 30. And then I'm going to divide it by 5, and that's going to give me 6. So this first distribution here is going to give me negative 6, and don't forget the x. Second one, it's a negative times a negative, so that's going to be a positive. And we're multiplying 3/5 times 20. Again, choose your method here. You want to multiply 3 times 20 and then divide it by 5, or 20 divided by 5 and multiply by 3. Up to you. 3 times 20 is 60, and then I'm going to divide by 5. It's going to give me 12. So the second is going to be 12y. And lastly, I have, and I'm going to do down on this side, 3/5 times 25. It's a negative times a positive. So first of all, it's going to give me a negative. And what 3/5 times 25? Well, this one, I'm going to simplify here. Divide by 5 is 1, divide by 5 is 5, and 3 times 5 is 15. So all this gives you 15. Look at it one last time, see if you can combine in like terms. No, this is an x, this is an y, and this is just a constant, so they're all different. I cannot combine them. This one, so there's a little bit more to do here, but the idea first is to get rid of the parentheses by using distributive property. So let's do that. So it's going to be negative times a negative, which is a positive. I don't need to write that, but I'll write it. And half of 6, what's half of 6? Half of 6 is 3k. Negative times a negative is a positive again. And half of 4, half of 4 is 2y. So that one is easy. I'm going to erase this because now you don't need it. And then last one, negative times a positive is a negative. And what's half of 12? It's 6. And then I'm going to write the negative y and minus 5k. Not done yet because we can definitely combine a couple of things here. I can combine this guy with this guy. I can combine this guy with this guy. So let's put all the like terms next to each other. It's going to be 3k minus 5k plus 2y minus y, and then finally minus 6. So combine like terms. This is going to give me negative 2k. 2y minus y, and if you like, you can put a 1 over here. So that really is 2 minus 1, which is positive, right? The positive is going to win 2 minus 1, 1y. And then finally the minus 6, I'm just going to write it. And there's nothing else to do. This one, again, this one's the example here, and the reason this one is here is because some of you might actually decide to subtract 5 minus 2/3 first, which is not what I want you to do. So the first thing I want you to do is a distributive property. Okay, but what will you do with a 5, and what will you do with this guy over here? Well, those two guys were just that 5. We're just going to hang out here. Minus 2y is just going to hang out there. They're just waiting for you to finish the distributive property. So let's do that. So it's a negative times a positive, which is a negative. And 2/3 of 9, or 2/3 times 9 is going to be 6k. And then you're going to be a negative times a negative, it's going to be a positive. And what's 2/3 of 12? So imagine you have 12, right? And you break it up into thirds, or you do 2 times 12, which is 24, divided by 3, it's going to give me 8y. And lastly, it's negative times a negative again, it's going to be a positive. And what's 2/3 of 6? Well, 2 times 6 is 12, divided by 3, it's going to be 4. Like terms, yes, there are. This guy and this guy are the same. There's a y here. These two are the same. And then the 6k is going to be all by itself. Let's do 5 plus 4, right? And then in red, I'm going to do plus 8y minus 2y. And then in black here, I'm going to put minus 6k. Notice that I always move, when I'm putting my like terms next to each other, I always move the term and includes the sign that comes right before it. Okay, so take care of this. 5 plus 4, the both positive, nothing to think about here, it's just 9. From here, it's positive 8y minus 2y, and that's just positive 6y. And minus 6k, because that 6k combines with no 1. And that's it. Yeah, there's one more. So again, these two have to be multiplied by negative 1/4. The negative 7w plus m are just waiting right now. So let's take care of the distributive property. So it's a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and 1/4 of 8. So it's 1 times 8, which is 8, divided by 4. That gives me 2w. And then it's a negative times a positive, which is going to give me negative. And what's 1/4 of 4? Well, it's going to be 1 times 4, which is 4. And 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1m. Don't forget the m. Combine like terms, yes. I can combine the 2w with the minus 7w. I combine the minus 1m with the plus m. Let's put them side by side. 2w minus 7w minus 1w plus m. Well, this one, again, please change it. It's 2w plus negative 7w. That's going to give me negative 5w, right? Because the negatives are going to win. And this one is negative 1m plus, and don't forget, we can add a 1 here. So it's negative 1m plus 1m. This is just 0. So this 2 becomes 0. I don't even have to write it. So my final answer is this guy right here. Okay. So now I'm going to go to your handout. Is this the one? Yeah. So give me 1 second. All right. So let's do the handout. And again, you have a calculator in your possession, so I can't take shortcuts. 2/3 of 18, well, 2 times 18 is 36, divided by 3 is 12, so that's going to be 12k. Next one, it's a positive times a negative, so it's going to be negative. 2 times 21 is 42, divided by 3, it looks like 14. 14p. And then 2/3 times 9, so that's a positive times a positive, so it's going to be a positive. And 2/3 of 9 is just 6. Can I combine anything? It doesn't look like it because they're all different. Next. So 1/5 times this, 1/5 times this, and 1/5 times that. So positive times a negative is a negative. And what's 1/5 of 10? 1/5 of 10 is 2m. Oops. So here, well, this is m times m. It's going to be m squared. Well, actually, no, I'm going to ask you to take that from here. So that becomes just 2m. Next one is a positive times a negative, which is a negative again. And 1/5 of 25 is 5w. And lastly, it's a positive times a positive, which is a positive, and 1/5 of 50 is 10. Again, nothing to combine, so I move on. Alright, so there's a little bit more to do over here. Is that the first page? Yeah, there's a little bit more to do here. So, positive times a negative times a positive is a negative. 1/4 of 24k is 6k. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 40 is 10m. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 12 is 3, and then minus 20k. Can I combine anything? Yes, I can. I combine this guy with this guy. Side by side. Then I'm going to write plus 10m plus 3. The only two I can combine is these two. So 6k minus 20k is actually negative 26k. And then plus 10m plus 3. Okay. Then to distributive property here with these two. That plus 18, I'm just going to write it over here just to show that it does nothing until we get rid of the parentheses. So 2/7 times negative times, let's do the signs. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2/7 times 14 is going to be 4. 4k, by the way. And then 2/7, negative times a negative is going to give me another positive. And 2/7 of 21 is going to be 6m. I'm going to erase this guy because we don't need it. So can I combine anything? I combine this guy with this guy. 4k minus k, and then I'm going to write the plus 6m plus 18. 4k minus k, don't forget there's a 1 in here, so it's 4 minus 1, that's giving 3k plus 6m plus 18. Alright, so now it becomes a little bit repetitive, but it's the same drill. And what is this? Hang on a second. Am I doing the wrong one? Yeah, I'm doing the wrong one. So I'm going to pause the video. So I made a mistake here, so I'm supposed to be doing this sheet. The other sheet had things that we didn't cover yet. So I'll go back and start this again. So again, it's the same idea, so you probably, hopefully I didn't do too many problems. So let's start here. 2/3 of it times 18, you can do 2 times 18 divided by 3, or you can do 18 divided by 3 and then times 2. It's really up to you. 2/3 of 18, if you break 18 into 3 parts, it'd be 6, 6, and 6, so it'd be 12k. Well, I forgot, positive times a positive is a positive. Positive times a negative is going to be a negative. And 2/3 of 21 is going to be 14p. Positive times a positive is a plus. And 2/3 of 9 is 6. Can I combine any terms here?
I cannot. Yeah, that's like it. Looking for, but can't find one. All right, so second problem. You're going to do 1/5 of -10. So 1/5 of -10 is going to be just negative. So it's positive times a negative, which is a negative, -2, and m. Don't forget the m. 1/5 times 25, it's going to be -5w. And 1/5 times 50 is going to be 10, so plus 10. Again, nothing to combine, so we move on. Negative times a positive is a negative. 1/4 of 24 is 6k. Negative times already did this one. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 40 is 10m. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 12 is 3 minus 20k. Can I combine any like terms? I can. I can combine this fellow over here with this fellow. So it's negative 6k minus 20k, and then plus 10m plus 3. So I can combine these two. Oops. I can combine these two guys right here. Negative 6 and negative 20, it gives me negative 26k plus 10m plus, don't forget the 3, which I did. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 2/7 of 14 is 4. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 2/7 of 21 is 6m. And then plus 18 minus k. Can I combine anyone? Yeah, I can combine this guy over here with this guy over here. So let's put them side by side. Plus 6m minus k. 14 plus 18 is 22, and then plus 6m minus k. Next one. 1/6 of 18w is a positive times a positive, and 1/6 of 18 is 6. No, it's 3, sorry. And then 1/6 times negative 30m, it's a positive times a negative, which is a negative, and 1/6 of 30 is 5m minus 12w. Can I combine like terms? Yes, this guy and this guy. 3w minus 12w minus 5m. Stop. Right, so let's combine these two. 3w minus 12w is the same thing as 3w plus negative 12w. The negatives are going to win, right? So negative 9w minus 5. 3/8 of 16. Positive times a positive is a positive, and that's going to be 6h. 3/8 times negative 8m. Positive times a negative is a negative, and that's going to give me 3m. And then plus 20k. Nothing to combine. Done. 13. Well, this 13, again, does nothing, so I'm going to put it over here, because that's not the factor that's going to be multiplying, right? So the guy that's going to be multiplying with everybody in the parentheses is this guy right here. So this and this, this and that, this and that. So first of all, negative times a positive, right? It's going to be a negative, and 1/9 of 18 is 2w. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/9 of 9 is just 1m. And lastly, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/9 of 27 is going to be 3. Can I combine? Yes, I can actually combine this guy with this guy. So I'm going to write them side by side. 13 plus 3, and then minus 2w plus 1m. 13 plus 3 is 16, and then final answer minus 2w plus 1m, or just m. Next one, again, so these examples are nice because it's so that you don't combine these
two terms or these three terms together. So negative 20w stands as it is. The plus 5r is doing absolutely nothing. And then now you got to worry about the distribution. So you're going to distribute this and this first. Positive times a negative is a negative. 4/5 of 10 is going to be 8w. 4/5 times negative 20r is a positive times a negative, which is a negative, and that's going to give me 16r. Then lastly, it's a positive times a negative, which is going to be a negative again, and 4/5 of 5y cross cross is going to be 4y. It's always nice if you take care of the signs first, and then you do the multiplication. Can I combine anything? Yes, I can. This guy and this guy. And then this guy is this guy. So let me put all the like terms together. You get negative 20w minus 8w, and then change colors here for you. Plus 5r minus 16r, and then minus 4y. The minus 4y is going to just stay in the back, so there's nothing to do there. So let's take care of these two. Negative 20w minus 8w is the same thing as negative 28w. 5r minus 16r, it's going to be negative 11r. And then copy that. Done. Oops, my pen always do that. And it's still doing it. Next one is 12. So again, please don't combine the 12 and negative 3/5. The 12 is just going to stay there. Now I'm going to do the distributive property with these guys. So it's a negative times a negative, which is a positive. And 3/5 times 20 is going to give me 12k. Negative times a negative is going to give me positive again. And 3/5 times 5 times 10 is going to be 6. That's 6a. And then 3/5 negative times a positive is going to be negative, and 3/5 times 5 is going to be 3. And then, so I did that. Now I'm going to do the second parenthesis. So it's these two, positive times a positive, which is a positive, and 4 times 3 is 12k. And then positive times a negative is going to be a negative. Don't forget there's a 1 here. So 4 times 1 is going to be 4a. Can I combine like terms? Yeah, that's quite a few things I can combine in this problem. So I can combine, let's see, let's start with a case. This guy with this guy. I put them side by side. So 12k plus 12k. And then I can combine this guy with this guy. So I get plus 6a minus 4a. And then lastly, I'm not gonna, well, I'll change colors. Blue. I get this 12 and then minus 3. 12 plus 12 minus 3. Now it's simple, right? So 12k plus 12k is 24k. That's easy. 6a positive minus 4a is just 2a. And then 12 minus 3 is just positive 9. Okay. Okay, again. Positive times a positive is a positive. So 1/8 of 24w is 3w. Positive times a negative is going to be a negative, and 1/8 of 16k is 2k. And then a positive times a negative is going to be a negative, and 1/8 of a is going to be 1a. And then let me put this in blue so you know that I did not distribute use the distributive property with the 12 and the 5k. They just coming along for the ride right now. Combine like terms. I combine this guy with this. Nope. Sorry, it's this guy with this guy. It's going to be negative 2k minus 5k. And then I'm going to copy the rest. Plus 3w, which is this guy. Minus 1a, which is this guy. And then minus 12, which is that guy. So these three will do absolutely nothing. Minus 2k and minus 5k. It's the same thing as negative 2k plus negative 5k. Negative and negatives and negative, right? Because they're friends, so it's going to be negative 7k. And then I'm going to copy the rest. Okay, so now we're on the second page, and again, just a little bit more practice. So 1/5 times 10 is 2k. Positive times a negative is a negative, and 1/5 of 20p is 4p. And positive times a positive is a positive, so 1/5 of 5 is just 1. Nothing to combine here. Move on. Positive times a negative is a negative. 1/4 of 8 is 2m. Positive times a negative is a negative, and 1/4 of 16 is 4w. And positive times a positive is going to be a, is it not going to be? It's going to be positive, sorry, and that's going to be 10. And again, nothing to combine, they're all three different. They're not like terms. This one, negative times a positive is a negative. 1/3 of 24k is 8k. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/3 times 12 is 4m. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/3 of 9 is 3. And then minus 2k. Combine like terms? Yes, I can combine this guy with this guy. So I'm going to write it out. Like terms next to each other. And then plus 4m plus 3. So negative 8k minus 2k is negative 10k plus 4m plus 3. Where are we? Here. So that 3 is going to do absolutely nothing. The minus 2k is going to do absolutely nothing. And the person being multiplied with everybody inside the parentheses, the negative 2/9. So negative times a negative is a positive, and 2/9 of 18 is going to be 4k. Negative times a negative is a positive again, and 2/9 of 27 is going to be 6m. Combine like terms? Yes, I can. This fellow is this fellow. So it's going to be negative 2k plus 4k, and then I'll write the rest out. Plus 3 plus 6m. These two I can combine. Who wins? The positive. Why? Because they have more. It's 2k and the rest plus 3 plus 6m. Okay, moving on. So again, the only person that you have to worry about is this guy's doing the distributive property. So the 11, I'm going to write it. And I'm even going to write a plus 5m at the end because that's also going to do nothing. So this is the distributive property is between negative 1/7 and everybody inside the parentheses. So it's a negative times a negative, so that's going to be a positive. And 1/7 of 14, what's 1/7 of 14? Is 2, but 2w. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and 1/7 of 35 is going to be 5m. Combine like terms? Well, actually, I combine these two guys, right? This one and this one. And lucky for us, they're already side by side, so I'm going to write the other two terms. So negative 11 plus 2w, and then these two, 5m plus 5m is positive 10m. Let me clear the page. Okay, so again, positive times a negative is a negative. 3/4 of 8h is 6h. Positive times a negative is a negative again. And 3/4 times 8 is going to be the same answer, but instead of h, we're going to put m, so it's going to be 6m. And then don't forget that there's a second distributive property, a second parenthesis. So it's a negative, right? Negative 1/2 times 6h. What's half of 6? It's going to be negative 3h. And then negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and half of 12 is 6. Combine like terms? Yes. It's this guy with this guy. So let's put them side by side. Negative 6h minus 3h, and then the other two, minus 6m plus 6. Combine like terms. This, you can think of it 6h plus negative 3h. And they're both friends, so it's going to be negative 9h. And then let me copy this part here down. Minus 6m plus 6. Okay. Oof, formal problems. Okay, let me just move this. Hurry up, more room. So, distributive property, negative times a positive is a negative. So half of 4 is negative 2w. Negative times a negative is a positive, and half of 6 is 3m. Negative times a negative is a positive, and half of 2 is 1. That's second distributive property, so that's a positive 1/3. So positive times a negative is a negative, and 1/3 of 12 is 4w. Positive times a negative is a negative again, and 1/3 of 3 is just 1. Combine like terms, yes, it's going to be this guy is this guy, and then this guy is this guy. Please rewrite it, so we get negative 2w minus 4w, change colors, plus 1, minus 1, and the plus 3m, I'm going to put it in purple, plus 3m in the back, because that does nothing. Alright, so what do we get? Negative 2m minus 4m is negative 6w, sorry. Negative 2w minus 4w is negative 6w, 6 here. 1 plus negative 1 becomes 0, so I don't even have to write that, and then I'll just copy plus 3m. Okay, so let's do this. Positive times a negative is a negative. 1/8 of w is 1w. Positive and a negative is a negative again. 1/8 of 24r is 3r. And 1/8 times 56 is going to be positive times a negative, which is a negative, and 1/8 times 56 is, that's going to be 7y. Minus, and again, write in different colors so that you know that I did not use a distributive property, so 2w minus 10r. Like terms. This guy is a like term as this guy, and this guy is a like term as this guy. So put them side by side. Negative 1w minus 2w minus 3r minus 10r, and then minus 7y. So you can tell the like terms by the colors. Let's combine them. This becomes negative 3w. This becomes negative 13r, and then minus 7y. So this is the final expression. Two more problems, and we're done. So this one has quite a few things here. So first of all, know that this 5 here is going to do nothing. So I'm going to write it over here. So, and then it's the 2/3 that's being applied, right? So it's positive 2/3 times a negative, so it's going to be negative, and 2/3 of 21 is 14k. Positive times a negative, it's going to be a negative again, and 2/3 of 12 is 8. And that's 7 over here. You know what? Let's just do it. And 2/3 times 7, and again, let me put that aside. So you get 2/3 times 7. There's nothing we can do. Put it over 1. 2 times 7 is 14, and at the bottom 3 times 1 is 3. I'm going to leave it like that. Plus 14 over 3 as a whole number, as an improper fraction. Sorry. Now we have a second set of parentheses. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 3/4 of 8 is going to be 6k. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and 3/4 of 12 of 16 is going to be 12. And then we have a plus 7 there. Just write in different colors. So that plus 7 did not participate in the distributive property. So like terms, let's use purple. So we have this guy here. It's this guy. And then a different color, we have a number, another number, another number, and another number. So all those are like terms. So let me put them in order. So I'm going to get negative 14k minus 6k. The oranges is going to be this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. So it's plus 5, plus 14 over 3, plus 12, plus 7, and for last, this guy over here, negative 8a. So negative 8a has the easiest job because it's going to literally not do anything. Let's combine the other terms. these two gives me negative 20k. By now, you should be a little bit more comfortable subtracting, right? Subtracting, what do you call it? Integers, negative integers and positive integers. Okay, so that's negative 20k. And over here I have 5 plus 12, which is 17. 17, no, 5 plus 12, 17. 17 plus 7 is 24. And then I have 24 plus 14 over 3. And the 14 over 3 I'm going to change to a mixed number, which is 4 and 2/3. 3 goes into 14 4 times, 2 left over there. And then I can add the whole number, so 24 plus 4 is 28 and 2/3. So all my oranges over here end up with positive 28 and 2/3. And then minus 8a. Yay, last problem. Distributive property. Positive times a positive is a positive. 3/5 of 20 is 12w. Positive times a negative is a negative. That's going to give me 9k. Positive times a negative is a negative, and 3/5 of 5 is going to be 3a. And then minus 9 minus 8k. Combine like terms. Oof, do I have like terms? Yes, I have this guy. It's this guy, and that's it. So 9k, negative 9k, sorry, minus 8k, and then plus 12w, minus 3a, minus 9. So all these three terms here are going to do absolutely nothing. These two together gives me negative 17k. Copy the rest. And that's your answer for the last one. Okay, not that difficult if you do it. Actually, the trick here is to do it neatly and in steps. Okay, so you get less confused. That's it.